Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is the 5-minute watch review. My name is Strider, or you can call me Little Jim. Most videos are going to be 5 minutes long, but extra special watches get the spotlight. And that could be as long as 20 minutes. So strap in, we're going for a ride.
Today we're going to hop into the world of RGMT watches, which is a brand of watches that is dedicated more to a military or tactical style look than pretty much any other design. Now, the big deal here on this is affordable tritium in a time post-pandemic where the cost of tritium has literally skyrocketed. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. Check out the packaging, see how the watch arrives, and see what we think of it overall. Now, I have already sized this watch. I wanted to kind of wear it around for the last week or week and a half just to kind of get a feel for it, so I had a better understanding of what it was like to live with before coming out here and doing the review. So when we get it open, it's a nice little case. You've got your warranty registration card, a booklet here that gives you an idea of what you're dealing with as far as what tritium is all about, and we'll discuss that here in a few moments. And then here is your standard operation manual, all that inside of the packaging, and we'll get this out and move these off to the side. Now, as we take a closer look at this, you see what a handsome design this is and all of the work that they put into patterning this dial the way that they did. This is a handsome looking watch, and the fact that you've got tritium in there and it's an automatic means you're getting a good deal of value built into this watch. Your case diameter on this is going to be 43 millimeters, so it is a good full-size men's casual or sportwear watch. Certainly not a dress watch at that size, but 43 millimeters for a standard American grown man should be just about perfect. Definitely not a baby size like 38 or 40 millimeters. Now, I'm not out here saying we need to have big giant clown watches or anything. I'm wearing a 44 millimeter watch right now, and obviously, it fits perfectly on my wrist, doesn't look too big or dominant. And that's how this one's going to wear as well. Let's go ahead and put that on and show you how the 43 millimeters plays. Now, I've got just barely under an 8-inch wrist. So for me, I only had to remove 2 links, one from either side of the clasp, and it fits me very, very nicely. The one bit of feedback I would give to RGMT on the build quality of the watches, I would love to have seen at least a 3-position adjustment on this clasp. You should always have 1 link size of micro adjustments on a clasp. I've seen some people asking for 5 slots and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. You don't need to go more than 1 full link size because you're really trying to find basically a half link adjustment, where if taking out 2 links is too much but putting 1 back in is too loose, then you want that in between. That's where you're going to find that. So let's talk just for a moment about tritium. Now, I don't want to go too far off into the woods on this because this can literally be a half-hour discussion just talking about tritium, and we don't need to go quite that in-depth. So what you've got here when you look at these, what look like little bars on the outer perimeter of the dial on the outside of each of the hour markers, those are little glass vials, little glass tubes, and they're filled with an inert gas called tritium. That particular isotope is going to radiate on its own. They are self-luminous. And you see them as well on the hands. You have 1 long tube for the minute hand, 1 short one for the center sweep hand, and 2 short ones for the hour hand. All of these are going to glow on their own. You do not need to expose this watch to daylight, sunlight, bulb light, anything. They're automatically going to glow. They have a half-life of just about 12 years, which means from the time that they're encapsulated, you've got about 12 years before they decay to a point where they're half as bright as they were when they were originally encapsulated. So you could figure on a total lifespan of somewhere between 20 and 24 years for the dial of this watch, where you can still read it legibly at night. Now, the thing about tritium that a lot of people don't understand until they've actually handled a tritium product is the fact that it's not extremely bright. The point of tritium is to be steadily glowing at the same rate for a very long period of time. So you take the Zin that I've got here. This is all Swiss Super Luminova. And what that means is it's a luminescent-based paint that needs to be recharged with light. And then what happens is it absorbs light into the material and it stores it and it slowly radiates it. And it's very, very, very bright under an initial charge. And then it very quickly fades down and down and down and down, where some watches you could have a cheap compound and within a few minutes it's dimmed to the point you can't see it anymore. A compound like this and an application as thick as this, you'll be able to see this watch mostly through the night. With this, however, it's going to be tremendously dimmer, but it's going to be consistent throughout the night. It's not going to be brighter when you first go to bed and then dimmer 6 hours later. It will be the same amount of radiation throughout the entire night. So once your eyes have adjusted to the darkness, let's say you've been asleep for a couple of hours, you wake up and you roll over and go, oh, what time is it? You can't quite see the nightstand clock. You can't quite see the clock on the dresser or on the wall, but you can look down at your wrist and it will be glowing enough that you'll be able to very easily read the time in the dark. And that's the beauty of having tritium. It is always glowing no matter what. And it's not so bright that it's obscene like many dive watches or pilot watches or anything else. Now, I unfortunately was not able to do my typical photography before the video started because, number one, I had forgotten what a tremendous pain in the butt it was to capture the glow of tritium with a camera. You have to control your lighting. It's to a difficult degree. Now, I've done that for years, and sometimes I enjoy it. Not so much anymore as I get older. I get aggravated a little bit more quickly. But the other thing is this movement inside doesn't hack. So that means the center hand does not stop running. It always indicates the seconds, as long as there's wind on the mainspring. So what happens is, when you're holding your shutter open for too long, what you'll see is a blur of tritium going all the way around, because for this, I would probably have to hold the shutter open about 30 seconds. So the hand would have started here at 37 minutes and would go all the way around here to about 13 minutes. Or sorry, about 7 minutes. So you would watch a green arc going all the way around, and it's just a terrible look. So I wasn't going to do that. If this were any hacking movement, I could simply pull the crown, that hand would stop, and I could get a much cleaner shot. So, unfortunately, the website does not specify the movement caliber, but since it's described on their website as a 21 joule movement, and the ease of winding that I feel in the crown, I'd have to say it's a Miyota 8215. Now, as I mentioned, it's a non-hacking movement known for being extremely reliable, even if it's not terribly accurate. Now, I've never had an 8215 that was terribly inaccurate, so I would expect it to run somewhere around 10-15 seconds plus or minus per day, which for most people is going to be just fine. So I do want to go through the specs again very quickly and then give you a full idea of what it is that you're looking at here. So everything here is stainless steel, 316L stainless steel case, bezel, bracelet, and case back. 43 millimeters, that is 14 millimeters in thickness. They've done a nice combination finish on this. So you have what would normally look like a brushed satin case. They have actually gone over it with something like a Scotch-Brite belt or something in that way that further smooths it out so you don't see the very direct or deep striations. It's very smoothed over. So it actually has a unique finish that I'm not used to seeing on a wristwatch. I kind of like that. They've done a mirror polish all the way around on the bezel. And then you have a mirror polished bevel that runs across the front of the lugs, up the lug, all the way around the top side of the case, and down the other lug. The case back is a screwed-in type case back that is mirror polished. The underside of your case, you'll see on the lugs here, is also mirror polished. And the bracelet is fully brushed. And then again, they've gone over it with another material, something like a Scotch-Brite, that smooths everything out to an even finer finish. And there is no polishing on any portion of the bracelet anywhere, even on the sides of the links. Speaking of the links, these are all solid steel 3-piece links with solid end link construction, and you're going to have friction pins inside of there, not screws. So if you have a pin pusher, you're going to be able to very easily size this watch yourself at home and not probably have to pay a jeweler to do it for you. So as we see here, the lug-to-lug distance is fairly short, so it's not hanging over the wrist at all. It's actually a very, very comfortable watch. It's got a good amount of weight to it. It's not overly heavy. Guess it helps if you turn it on. And that is going to weigh in at 5.3 ounces. And since I was talking about the lug tip to lug tip length, I know people do like to know that lug to lug distance. That is just about 51 millimeters. So if you already know that you can handle that size from lug end to lug end, you're going to be in good shape. Now, there are a couple of different color choices that you can pick from on the RGMT website. And by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, the price is $179, whether you get the blue, the black, I think the other one is red, if I'm not mistaken. And I'd have to say that this is appropriately priced. This isn't as luxury level as some of the other Dartmouth Group brands, but it doesn't feel cheap either. It's a solid watch that if you paid $500 for it, you probably wouldn't be all that thrilled. But at well under $200, I think you're going to be quite happy. It's 100 meters water resistant. You've got a standard push-pull crown. This is a mineral crystal with some clear anti-reflective coating. And for those of you that have never had a watch with the Miyota 8215, doesn't seem to be as prevalent today as it was 20 years ago. It was in pretty much any automatic watch you bought for under $300. Back then was a Miyota 8215. It is a 42-hour power reserve on a 21-joule movement. And then, of course, the most important feature of this watch is the fact that you have all of these tritium vials. Now, tritium is regulated by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So you can't just order up tritium and have it imported into the U.S. because, believe it or not, that is very, very, very illegal. They have cracked down on the old habits of companies that would sell keychains and stuff on, let's say, auction sites or Amazon or whatnot. And people would buy those keychains, crack them open, take the vials out, and install them into EDC products like zipper pulls, knives, fidget spinners, and watches. And that was highly illegal because they didn't have a license to import that product. So if you were to decide, I'm going to start up a watch company and I want to use tritium, you have two ways of going about it. You can apply for a license, which is Not extremely, but it's expensive. It is a business expense that you would have to plan for. And it's a very, very long wait, and they make you jump through a bunch of hoops. Or you go to a company like MB Microtech and you pay them a licensing fee to import tritium under their license, and they will distribute that as a product to you. So you'll pay per vial, and then you'll pay their licensing fee on top of that, whatever that may be. So it's never an inexpensive prospect to manufacture a watch with tritium. So to see one coming out like this at $179 to me seems like a really good deal. Now, I do realize that their full retail was considerably higher. I'm coming into this brand kind of late in the game, so this is not a brand new model by any stretch of the imagination. So at this point, they have their prices adjusted, and at $179, I'd say it's a pretty good proposition. I don't know all of the outlets that sell RGMT watches. I'm sure you can use your favorite search engine and find them. I do see, however, like many micro brands, they do sell directly from their website as well. So you should probably have good luck being able to do that. Now, they do have quite a large model line. I haven't really played around with any other ones, just this one. I might experiment with a couple of other ones in the future, as I have developed a liking toward many of the Dartmouth brands, in particular Spinnaker, which you've probably already seen the review I've done on the Spinnaker Fleas GMT. I've taken a liking to the Nubeo brand, as well as the Cadola brand, which is their more motorsport-inspired brand. So they have quite an interesting collection of watch brands inside of that group that give them different flavors and different feelings from brand to brand. And this, as I mentioned earlier, is more of their military or tactically inspired watches, which, hey, I'm all about that. There it is on the wrist. And I'm going to sign off. Let me do a little add-on here. I was signing off, getting all excited. I forgot that you're probably going to want to see how the tritium looks on camera. Now, keep in mind, the camera is not going to be a good representation of what you see in real life, so it may be a little bit hard to make out, but I think it's a good idea to show you a time lapse to show you how long the Lume actually does last, that it doesn't fade over time. So even if I let this run for a half hour, you shouldn't see any difference in the glowing of the tritium, but it will be very, very dim as compared to something that has maybe like Seiko Lume or Swiss Super Luminova or something in a phosphorescent paint